Welcome to our posts. Today. We will see stories of r/TrueOffMyChest. I pulled a gun on a gay teenager. My 6-year-old daughter kept telling me she would see a man sneak in the house. Sometimes his entry points would be different every time. Sometimes it was a window, then the front door, then the back door, kitchen window, etc. She sees stuff that's not actually happening all the time, and this is what me and my wife chalked it up to. But that night I thought I saw a figure walk by my window. I ignored it though. But then she ran into our room saying she saw the man from her window sneak into our son's 16M room and that it sounded like he was hurting our son. I grabbed my handgun and ran into my son's room to see a shirtless man with facial hair, pointed my gun at him and yelled for him to get out. I flicked on the light to see a much younger than expected boy, with much less facial hair than the dark had led me to believe. I then look over at my son, also shirtless, and he's completely horrified. Quickly I realized what was going on and the distress my daughter thought her brother was in and felt horrible. The boy ran past me and out the front door. My son hasn't looked at me, let alone said a single word to me since. I pulled a gun and threatened to kill a kid. I feel like crap. Next story. I was in a coma several times for 2 weeks and I lived 30 years of my life. I am 21F and I was in a coma first for 3 days, which were awful days since I was having a recurring nightmare for those 3 days. I woke up and in less than 24 hours I was in a coma again. But this time it felt different. Obviously I didn't know I was in a coma. It was the opposite actually. In this reality, I left the hospital that day. I went back studying and I graduated. I met my husband and we had 2 daughters. I lived this whole reality day by day. I'm not sure how to explain it. It felt so real. I was in such a dark place that led me to the coma, but in this reality I overcame everything. It was very hard, but I did it. It's really strange. I don't really have words to explain the feelings that I am feeling right now. I am grieving people that have never existed. I lost my career, my whole life. Anyways, I was around 50 years old and at my oldest daughter's wedding. She came to me and told me that I didn't belong with them and that I should go back from where I came from. I was so confused. It happened all so fast. I got pushed from that reality by an external force to my reality and it was so painful. I am just really lost now because I don't know who I am anymore. I'm just confused and memories from the current lifetime seem so far away and I just want to go back there. Just wanted to let it out. I've had dreams that felt real before but never this deep. Next story. Today, I lied to my husband. This morning, I noticed my husband pacing to different rooms and then out to our cars. I was going to ask him what was going on when he asked if I'd seen his wallet. He had been searching all over the house and cars, he says. He's never actually lost his wallet, but it does blend into his desk, so if he leaves it there, he doesn't see it. Black wallet on a black desk. He normally has it on his nightstand in our bedroom. I, of course, going to the bedroom first, and he says he already checked there. He goes back out to look in the car he used yesterday. While he's outside, I look under the bed and his nightstand, all around it. Then I check his clothes in the hamper. Nothing. For in giggles, I open the top drawer of his nightstand, which I had seen him open when I was in here with him a few minutes earlier. Sitting on top of white handkerchiefs is his black wallet. No idea how he missed it. Now, my husband is an absolute sweetheart, but like a lot of people, he gets a little snippy when he's frustrated. When he came back in a few minutes later, I was at the top of the stairs. Before I said anything, he sniped, "I didn't find it." He then immediately apologized for his tone. I held up his wallet and said, "I know because I did." He thanked me and I handed to him when he walked up the steps. Then he asked me where I found it. This is when I lied. This isn't the first time I found something in a place I know he looked, and he gets upset at himself whenever that happens. He's been very hard on himself lately. So I told him I found it under the bed. He said he looked there, which I didn't realize I hadn't seen him do it. I fibbed again, telling him I had to use the flashlight on my phone because I didn't see it otherwise. He thanked me again, gave me a kiss, and headed out for the day with a smile. That's all I wanted, was his smile. Sometimes small white lies have a purpose. Next story. Realized I'm no one's priority while dancing at a wedding. So, I 30F have been single for a while now. Every so often I attempt to date, but nothing really sticks. I'm usually quite comfortable alone, but have hit the stage in life where weddings and engagements and babies are announced every other weekend. I recently went to a good friend's wedding and was sat at a table with a group of close friends who are all coupled up, either engaged or have long-term partners. Outside of this table, I only knew some of the bride's family, but not closely. I got up to dance, and at first my friends joined, but after one song they sat back down. I stayed on the dance floor for most of the night just dancing with strangers. It was a little lonely, but I preferred it to sitting and watching the night go by. It might seem dramatic, but I left the wedding feeling quite sad. It felt like all my friends had someone there who made them a priority, while I had no one. I had no one who wanted to dance with me or have fun with me. Unfortunately, that thought has stuck with me, and I'm realizing as a single woman with mostly partnered friends and family that unless I have my own partner, I won't be anyone's #1 priority. This isn't meant to be a woe is me, and I don't expect my friends to put me ahead of their partners, just needed to get this thought off my chest. Next story. I'm leaving my husband after his cancer came back because of his normal porn habits. I hate porn. I think it's disgusting, and if you truly loved someone you would be able to give up watching naked people have sex. It's ruined our society. My husband said he was on the same page about porn, but I found out it was a lie. He keeps doing it. He goes as far to watch TikTok thoughts or Reddit posts of porn secretly. His porn habits are normal, like all men do these days, apparently. I guess his need for porn trumps everything else then. I cared for this man day in and day out when he had cancer. I changed his diaper when he was bedridden. I showered him. I made his favorite meals every day. I didn't care because I loved him and I wanted him healthy and home. I loved and I loved. I listened to him. I supported him when he cried about his family. I told him he was great when he complained his boss didn't appreciate him. Today, I picked up his phone to look something up. We know each other's passcodes. There's no secrets. But when I unlocked it, I'm looking at the nudes of some random porn star. He was in incognito mode, of course. He told me last week that his cancers come back. His cancers come back and he decides to look at porn because he knows his wife will just take care of him. I'm filing for divorce. I'm sick of him. He can rely on his porn to fulfill his needs. He wants a magical fairy tale love story for the two of us. Guess what? The love story has true love, not them lusting after other women's naked bodies. Some people might say it's not about the porn. It is. It's about the porn. He chose porn. I choose me. For those asking, we had an active, normal sex life. 2-3 times a week. I'm not going to have threesomes. I think that sex is important and I do believe in mutual pleasure. I don't have a problem with masturbation. It's normal and healthy. I do not like porn. I will be leaving him. Everyone says all men watch porn and I would rather be single. Next story. I think I just saved my girlfriend's life. Me 26M and her 30F were traveling across the country to celebrate something for her sister. We stopped to sleep for the night. After a minute or so it seemed like her asthma started acting up. It just kept getting worse and worse. I looked up the nearest hospital and thanked the gods we were 3 miles away. I made it just in time. We got here, barely got her in a wheelchair, and she passed out. Her heart stopped. I saw them doing CPR on her. They got it going again quickly, they said. She's in stable condition RN, and I'm waiting to see what the doctors say caused this. Y'all, I gotta be honest, I've never been so scared in my life. I just want her to be okay. Edit. Thank you everyone for all the kind words. It's been really scary few hours. I'm gonna play some Tetris and get some sleep. I'm just waiting on the call to tell me she's being moved. Next story. I will be ghosting the guy I'm in love with, and I am so angry at him for making me do this. I told myself before I even knew he existed that this would be my last attempt at dating anyone, that if it didn't work out, I was fine being on my own and I'd just be done with dating. I don't need someone to feel happy or complete. I have enough in my life that's made me pretty damn content with things, but it's nice to have someone to share those things with, and I for sure thought he was the guy I was going to be sharing that with indefinitely. After being single for about 3 years, I got back into dating. The first one that went past talking was a busy. I met Ben on a dating app and we had a conversation, and then we went radio silent for over a month. But once we got back in contact in November of last year, we never went more than a couple days without speaking. We would FaceTime for hours. We're both single parents with neurodivergent children. Ben and I had very open and honest communication that up until now was maintained. My kids and family love him. His son loves me and he kids. From the time we started talking and then dating, everything has been amazing. He was always telling me how much he loves and appreciates me. He'll cook me dinner and do the dishes after, cuddle whenever I want, and always wants to talk to me about anything and everything. When I talk to him, he listens and sympathizes and supports me. He never once has talked down to me or insulted me. Which is why, when he told me he was going to be driving up to New York City to pick a friend from the UK that I had never heard of, and go on a several months long road trip with her, culminating in him then moving to the UK for schooling, I was floored. It was midnight, and we were in my car driving to his parents' house when he told me this. It was in the middle of nowhere, and we were going there to pick up tools to put my furniture together. So, I basically shut down and didn't acknowledge anything he said with anything more than, "You need to do what's right for you, and I need to do what's right for me." In my head, I'd already decided we were over, and I was in survival mode. I just had to get through the next couple of days, and then I'd just slow fade on him while he has his road trip with the random female friend I had conveniently never heard of before this, and then once he officially left, I could finally just completely block him everywhere. But he spent the next 2 days talking about the whole thing in a way that just infuriated me and was honestly so insulting. He kept saying he had to do this because he really wanted to go out and explore and see the world, which yeah, I get, and completely related to, but we're single parents. It's not practical, nor responsible to just up and leave your kids to go jaunt around the country for funsies without a care in the world. We are responsible for the lives we created, and he's just up and leaving his son because he has to go do this with his friend. He can't wait and do this with his son as a bonding experience between the two of them. He told me he wasn't doing this to sleep with other people, which in my experience is something someone says when that's exactly why they're doing it. And the knowledge that he's going on this trip with some woman he's never told me about, having what he thinks are going to be life-changing experiences with her, and not his son or me or anyone close to him, is just mind-blowingly selfish and immature. I will say I'm not particularly hurt. I cried for about 5 minutes when I was alone, and then the rage and disappointment set in. I really don't understand how he thought he could make such a unilateral decision that would impact our relationship and my children's and his son's lives, and it would be totally fine with me, and I'd just smile and nod along like this whole thing wasn't completely bag of cats crazy. Like, he kept assuring me that he would fly back from the UK every few months to visit, as if that would be totally fine, and I'd just go along with it because it's totally normal for the guy you're dating to abandon you and your children and his own child to go on a road trip with a random woman before moving to another country with her for an indefinite amount of time. I say this with all the sincerity in the world. What the absolute F? And now my kids are going to be devastated that they won't get to see someone they absolutely adore, and we won't get to see his son anymore. We love his son. I'm heartbroken I won't get to see that sweet little boy anymore. Seriously, why the F did he have to be such a craphead? He left the day before yesterday for New York City and sent me a screenshot of where he was on his trip. I sent back a gif of David Rose saying, "Take care," while shutting the door and rolling his eyes. I am beyond done with him, but I'm just mad. I can't get over how mad I feel. Like, burn the world to the ground angry. The fact that I'm aware of his existence at all is insulting to me on a molecular level. I hope he has the road trip he deserves, and I hope I never see him again. F you, Ben. Edit. His son lives with his bio mom. They live 5 hours away round trip, so it's not feasible to have visitation with him. Also, Ben is still texting me. He and Lady split up to do different things because they couldn't agree on how to spend their time. That was quick. I haven't responded and don't plan to. A very petty part of me wants him to keep texting so I can have a front row seat to the crap show this will be. Anyway, I'm off to go to my oldest school open house. I've already made plans to go stay at my brother's if he tries to come here on the way back. Edit 2. Yeah, he's oblivious to it being over. Kind of like I was oblivious to the fact that he's been planning to move to another continent. Every single person who's concerned for how he feels is more than welcome to try to get in touch with him and tell him that I'm the one who's a callous twat bag. Seriously, I'm not concerned with how he feels. He wasn't concerned with how I felt, but how guilty he felt for keeping me in the dark. That's the only reason he told me. Anyway, semi-disclosure because I'm not a complete butthole, but we both suffer from mental illness, which I will not be giving specifics about, but will say we are both properly medicated. I've considered the possibility of this being a mental breakdown, but he had been planning on moving for the entire time we were dating out of his house, not the UK, and no, he wasn't giving away any of his stuff. And if this were a mental breakdown, I would still be ghosting because the last time I was near someone who had a mental breakdown, they threatened to kill themselves with a shotgun on front of me and then aimed it at me, so maybe I want to avoid a repeat. I'm not changing my mind about the ghosting. None of his explanations would make this better. If he had been planning this long term, then he lied by omission and strung me along. He doesn't deserve any type of leniency, and I don't feel like catering to the feelings of yet another man who doesn't give a crap about mine. If any of you feel like he deserves a second chance, feel free to reach out to him at 1-800-IM-AT-WAT. Maybe he'll take you to see the Grand Canyon. Next story. My husband is having an affair, and I pretend not to know. I'll start by saying this: my husband is a great husband. He's kind, he's a wonderful father, he does more than his fair share of the housework. He makes good money and treats me well. We have a great lifestyle. We've been married for 15 years with ups and downs, but my friends constantly tell me how lucky I am to have him. A couple of months ago, I borrowed his phone and saw some texts. There was some explicit messages, mostly just random conversations, with another woman. They talked about times they've met up. So it's a physical affair, not just an emotional one. They say, "I love you" to each other. He talks about parenting stuff, like apologizing for being quiet because he was busy with taking care of our son, and more specific stuff about parenting troubles. He's mentioned me, so she knows I exist, but I didn't see him mention me much. I found her on Instagram. She's young, pretty, successful. We're in our 40s, and she looks like she can't be older than 30. I was shocked when I found out. But the more I've thought about it, I've decided to say nothing. If I confront him, then our lives will completely change. Our son's life will change. I don't know how he'd react, if he'd deny it or end it or leave me and run off with her. I mean, he told her he loves her. We have such a nice, stable home life. I don't want to lose that. It hurts when I see him texting on his phone, or when he's late home from work, or when he makes an excuse to disappear for a night. But does it hurt more than losing this life we have would? I don't want my son to grow up spending his time between two households. I don't want to be single and have to find someone new. Maybe I'll change my mind later, but for now I'll keep saying nothing. Ida, my husband, has had a vasectomy for all those worried about her getting pregnant. Edit 2, there's a few questions a lot have asked. I have been STD tested. I got a test after I first found out. Nothing came up. I work part-time, but my husband makes far, far more than me. We keep our finances fairly separate. He pays the majority of the bills. We do not live in America. I am not an expert on divorce law in our country. I do not know what I would be entitled to in a divorce. Yes, I know I should look into it. I have saved a small amount of evidence, just some pictures of his phone. Our son is 9. No, I don't want our son to grow up thinking this is normal. I also don't want him to grow up without having both his parents fully present in his life. I am scared of the possibility my husband will come home one day and ask for a divorce. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel. Our posts